Hi, my name is Sarah Sturgeon. I am a student at Georgetown College taking EDU 581. This video is for the purpose of an ESL assessment. I have Ms. Stone here, who is our student's third grade teacher. For the purpose of this video, his name will be Justin for privacy purposes, and so we're just going to talk about the assessment and what modifications that I would have done to the assessment to help him out more. All right, Ms. Stone, so the first thing I want to talk about is the access test. Are you familiar with the access test at all?
No.
Okay, so every ESL student that we have comes in and we give them an access test, which is just like a brief snapshot of their abilities and kind of where they are in learning English so that we can figure out what we need to do to better assist them.
Sure.
And so the access test is given in January, and Justin didn't come in until this August, so he has not gotten the access test yet. So as soon as it comes time to give that, then we'll have a better idea of where he is. According to all of his other MAP data that we have received, he is a level 1 entering, and so that means that he is really struggling with learning English.
Right, right.
And we're doing all that we can to help him, but there are some things that he can do.
Okay.
And so WIDA is focusing on the things that he can do. And so those standards are categorized into 4 different areas of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And so in terms of his abilities, he can point to stated pictures, words, or phrases, follow one-step oral directions, so whenever you're telling him to go get something in the classroom, he is able to follow that instruction and has become familiar with the classroom. He's able to match oral statements to objects, figures, or illustrations, and so those are all of his listening abilities. Do you see that a lot in the classroom, that he's able to do those?
Yeah, he can do those
Good.
things.
Okay, and then in terms of speaking, he's able to name objects, people, pictures, answer those questions, the who, what, when, where, which, and I have seen a lot of that in just my regular classroom observation, so I know that he's able to do that. In terms of reading, he should be able to match icons and symbols to words, phrases, or environmental print, and I've noticed a lot of modifications that you've used those types of supplements in your regular lesson plans, but I think in terms of assessment, I would like to add that to the assessment as well.
Right.
Just because we're doing all of these modifications in the classroom, I think a lot of times we forget to do that with the assessment.
Right.
Because it's supposed to be whole group and you're focusing on their individual capabilities.
Right.
But his capabilities aren't the same as everyone else's, so we want to make sure that he is still receiving the same benefits from the WIDA can-do statements. And then in terms of writing, he should be able to label objects, pictures, and diagrams, draw in response to a prompt, and produce icons, symbols, words, phrases to convey messages. And he is able to do those things, but whenever we get into the assessment, a new program that I found is called Recap. And so this program is an app that allows the students to respond through video, and then they're able to go back and watch it and kind of critique themselves. And so I think that I would really like to see that being used more in the classroom. I think that he would benefit from it. So those are our WIDA can-do statements. Now we're going to focus on the work. And so this will be attached to my plan, but this is our weekly assessment that is given, and we use the series Reading Wonders. And so if you could just go over and tell me what you do to give the assessment.
I just handed out, and they just complete it independently.
Right, so everything is done independently, and that is the standard for 3rd grade. So there are 2 stories with 10 questions from each story, and then at the final part there is a writing prompt. And I did notice that because of his PSP, he was able to receive simplified language and the visuals and organizers, which is following the guidelines for what he should receive according to his accommodation. So you're doing exactly what you're supposed to. Even if you didn't know what we did, it's no big deal because you're still doing the right thing.
Good.
So in terms of assessing what you have already modified, there are a couple of parts in the story that become very graphic, and so I thought that adding to that we could do some more pictures and kind of put the story into a little slideshow for him so that he kind of sees what's happening along with hearing it in the simplified language. I think that would be helpful. And then afterwards, in the actual prompts, these that were read to him are still very high level for someone who is just learning English. So even with the simplified language, you can only simplify a word so much, and
Right.
sometimes they still don't understand what's going on.
Right.
So what I would like to do is use the lower level weekly assessment on Reading Wonders. There is an assessment that is a different level,
Right.
so that you can go in and use that one and then simplify those even more. Right.
Okay.
And so this level is harder to simplify than the other one, so I think if we just switch it up and use the different one, that should help a lot. And then there were a couple of questions that for example, number 1, what text evidence best summarizes the author's point of view about bees? And this one would be better with the pictures, because you can go back to those pictures and
Right.
put them in order and have him choose. That way he better understands what they're asking.
Right.
And so those are the assessments that I would make for that. And then in terms of recap that we were talking about, in the written assessment, the question is, how are the points of view of the authors A Bee-Friendly Garden and The Manatee alike? Support your answer with clear text evidence. So I think that we could use the pictures to kind of have him pull out the things that are similar,
Right.
and then put it into words himself on the recap video, and then have him show the pictures to himself so that he kind of understands that he's teaching himself again. And that should help him to compare after a couple of assessments. Then he can go back and say, wow, look how much I've grown
Right.
from the first time in
Right.
comparison to the last time that I've done this.
Right.
So I think that would really be helpful. Have you seen any problems with the assessment whenever you're giving it to him? I know that he has an aide, but does he seem distracted, or is it harder for him to focus?
Yeah, I think it's clear that he's struggling with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe another modification that I would have is to pull him out of the room completely and not have him in the room with everyone else, because I think he feels a lot of peer pressure to, get to work, and he already has someone who's sitting next
Right.
to him, so it's kind of distracting.
Right. Right.
So if we could just pull him out, that might be better. So as a whole, the ESL students already receive the modifications that we give them during the classroom, and then if we can just focus on giving them a little bit extra during the assessment,
Absolutely.
I think that that will really help him in general. We have to remember to be reliable with the content that we give to them, and that we're constantly using the same structures and the same modifications so that they get used to those and feel more confident in themselves and their own abilities.
Right.
So that translates completely. All right. Well, do you have any other questions?
No, it
for
sounds
me?
great. Sounds
All
great.
right.
I'm hoping we can help him.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.